Hey, everybody, I'm Coach Cory Thorell. I am a personal guide, a life coach, a healer, a public speaker, and a teacher. And I spend a lot of time helping people on the path of self growth, awareness, and maybe to help to discover the gift that only that they are here to give in the world, which is their purpose. And when we do that, we take our power back and we start to live a life of love. But so many of us start without even knowing that we're afraid or uncertain or loaded with doubt, which gets in the way of creating the life that we want to live. And I want to share some stories about overcoming fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Maybe FUD. I stepped in the FUD, got stuck in the FUD. And by sharing some of these stories, I hope to inspire others that maybe they can find some aligned presence or being in the art of the present moment. So these conversations are real stories from tenderhearted people like you and me who faced some of these challenges. And today, I am so lucky to be here with my good friend Paul DeHerrera. Um, he and I've had some good fun. We've done some journeys
Mhm.
together, some healing work together. We went to Costa Rica together. We've laughed and we've cried and we've loved gigantically. And I've invited Paul to share some of his stories. Say hello, Paul.
Hi there, how's it going?
I'm so good, man. I am so good. I am in Santa Fe, New Mexico, my other home. And then Paul is just on the other side of the mountains from Salt Lake City. Where are you, Paul?
Grantsville, Utah.
Out there, right by the Great Salt Lake.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of
Well, Paul, thanks for jumping in and responding.
course, my pleasure.
I put a little ad or a little announcement out that I'm working on a project. And there's a book maybe coming out in the near future about this. But like I said, the power of stories and witnessing each other in our stories has a lot of power in the world. And, in fear, uncertainty, and doubt, there's a lot of fun to be had, I think, with that. And I want to call in the fun part of that because I think we all automatically know what it is to be stuck or to be riddled in fear, crippled by fear. And then the
Mhm.
uncertainty of not being able to make a decision, like being so stuck right there. And then doubt, which I think has a lot to say about capacity. Like, can I even do this? Am I even allowed? You know? And so I just kind of wanted to start right there, because I think the other side of fear is that it's an invitation to grow, it's an invitation to learn, it's an invitation to realize that we don't know enough information. And uncertainty is an opportunity to read the menu that we
Mhm.
can make choices. And then with doubt is to realize that, oh my gosh, I wasn't capable, but I certainly am now. So I'm just going to invite you to come in and just maybe find a place in your world, Paul, because I know that you're a
Okay.
dad and you're an amazing masculine man in the world who identifies with other straight men in the world who've also crippled by some of these stories.
Mhm.
What's sparking for you in this topic, Paul?
Um, well, when you talked about being a father, I became a father. I mean, most people would think it's, actually too old, but I was in my late 20s and early 30s and unexpected and had a lot of uncertainty as to, you know, if I could even do it, to be honest. But I knew that I needed to um, step up. I grew up without a father, without a male role model in my life. So I didn't want to do that to, my kids. And so that was a big, huge thing in my life was just the uncertainty, doubt, of course, doubting that I would be a good father and some fear as well. But the fear has always kind of plagued me in kind of like in work, like even in my present job. Um, I see sometimes like fear creeping in, fear of um, being an imposter. That's what I have imposter syndrome a lot, and it's gotten a lot less as time's gone on. But just feeling like I don't belong. Like, what am I doing here? I mean, I went to school for I'm an aircraft mechanic and I work on helicopters currently, air medical helicopters. So, just constantly wondering, am I good enough? And just the fear of screwing up because, I could potentially screw something up bad enough that people could lose their lives. That's kind of the nature of the beast when you work in aviation. People could lose their lives. And so just constantly just checking myself and making sure that I'm doing everything correctly, getting backed up when I need backup from fellow mechanics or even pilots, just to verify the work has been done correctly and properly. So yeah, just that fear definitely um, creeps in from time to time. It's gotten a lot less, but yeah, I definitely can empathize with people who live in that world of fear and uncertainty and doubt.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about um, the crippling effect of fear, uncertainty, and doubt,
Mm,
especially when we're not sure, we're not aware of it, when
mm,
we're unconscious, when we've normalized the abnormal, when we're living in a state of fear as the first choice. And this is a big part of my story, Paul, is,
mm,
being raised by a single mom without a lot of money in a kind of a rich neighborhood. We were different
mm,
already, but then of course
mm,
I was gay and
mm.
born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s when there was no positive role models at all.
Yeah,
No good news. It was all bad
yeah,
news. So I learned to walk in fear as one, I had to protect myself because I
mhm,
knew I was unsafe. And then that for me, that evolved into also being creative, being spiritual, and then also being powerful in that
mhm,
way. And then I was also told by my colleagues, peers, coworkers that I was too big, too bright, too much.
mm,
Well, so now I was unsafe just to be who I was. But then what I was
yeah,
good, I was also told I was unsafe. I couldn't be who I was.
yeah,
And so there was a lot of emotions that came from that. And one of them was I had to protect myself. I had to have a
yeah,
barrier or a shield, which took a lot of energy and emotion and resources just to walk in the door, let
yeah,
alone do whatever I came to do, like at work, for example. I
yeah.
had to find a safe vein to be myself and then to do the job. So let's talk a little bit about some of that unconscious crippling effect of fear, uncertainty, and doubt that's
Mhm,
normalized in our culture.
yeah,
It's so findable everywhere.
yeah. It's funny listening to your story. Not funny, but kind of ironic, I guess, is you actually described how I felt, and it's weird drawing parallels because you felt that way because of being gay, but I felt that way just for being who I am, which is just Paul, being Paul.
Yeah.
And I mean, I grew up, in a time where, and it's still kind of prevalent these days as well, where, being macho and masculine means you don't have feelings and you don't cry and you don't have emotions and all that stuff. But I've always been a very, very emotional person. I've always been relatively in touch with my feelings and my emotions. I wear it on my face. You can tell if I'm pissed, I can't hide it. If I'm happy, you definitely know because I can't hide it. And so I definitely had a similar experience where I felt like I had to protect myself because I didn't want everybody else around me, all the masculine boys or young men out there to know that I was weak or vulnerable. And there were times in elementary school where people caught on to that, and I did find myself um, on the receiving end of some pretty severe bullying and um, yeah, just all of that, everything that goes along with it. It's definitely not as bad as it is today. Bullying back then was just just picking on people, but it's definitely not what it is today.
It goes a
So
lot
yeah,
deeper. Yeah, it
yeah,
does.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I definitely resonates with me when you said protecting yourself and growing up poor, living in kind of an upper scale area. I had very similar upbringing as well. It was just my mom and my sister and I, very fixed income. She, went to school and then she just worked several jobs. Would clean the dance studio. I know you and I have a similar
Yeah.
background when it comes to dance. Obviously, you're a little bit more involved in it than I was, but
Yeah.
I remember my mom would clean the dance studios at the end of the evening after dance classes were over, just so that she could afford tuition for my sister and I.
Mhm.
And it was I mean, I just can't. I mean, I remember even like she worked for the orthodontist office to get my sister and I braces. Like that's just what she did because that's what she had to do to help support, these two kids. So I was always really, really aware of all of that.
Mhm.
And not in the people that I went to school with, I'm pretty certain none of their parents, I mean, did that. I knew I went to school with kids whose parents drove, Porsches and, Audis and Ferraris and stuff like that. So, it's wasn't, I was definitely the oddball. Plus you add on to that, I'm emotional and I'm in touch with my feelings and like, God, I'm doubly fucked.
Right,
so,
right.
so
Yeah.
yeah. And God, I mean, I can't imagine what it would have been like to be in your shoes to also be gay. I mean, that would have just added even more pressure, more of those fears and such on that. So
I got to say,
yeah.
I did, Spirit did took kick care of me in one regard. I've often joked that I've never come out of the closet because I never went in. And
Yeah.
for some reason, as a little kid, I knew that there wasn't anything wrong with me, but there
Yeah.
was something wrong with our world. And so I
Yeah.
took it personally at that level, but
Mhm.
what that did though is it one more layer of being different, because the other
Yeah.
kids that figured out that were gay at school, they were suicidal or they were really
Hmm.
queenie or femmy or kind of drag queenie. And that wasn't my style at all. But I was once again another layer of difference, another layer
Yeah.
of alienated, of being alone in the world. But then of course, okay, let's move on a little bit in our story, because this is a transformation story. Is
Hmm.
that all of a sudden, like I know I was the first one in generations on both sides of my family to go to college,
Hmm.
which, and I'm a self-made man in every way because there wasn't any money. So I had to go find the money. I got a scholarship and I went to school, and I chose theater, not because I loved theater, but because it was the only safe place for a young gay boy to be.
Hmm. Yeah.
So once again, I was playing by very different rules in the world of show business
Hmm.
because it was survival. And
Yeah.
so I had a career. It was the only path for me, which
Yeah.
means I was also playing by different rules than my colleagues. So then another layer of difference and another
Yeah.
fuel to that fear. And of course, in my journey, I kept being told I was too big, too bright, too much all the time. I finally kind of broke down a little bit, and I finally, in order to fit in and to belong and
Yeah.
to piss everybody off all the time, I gave away my power.
Yeah.
I stopped being uber creative to fit in. I dimmed my light. And of
Mm.
course, we all know that when you're not your authentic self for a long period of time, your spirit comes knocking on the back door to say, hey, you can't do this forever. Hey, there's a better way. Hey, there's an easier
Hmm.
way. But part of me at the time was like, but I have a great job. I'm touring the world with a ballet company. I'm performing in the
Hmm.
world. This is my ideal job. I've made it. I've got to
Yeah.
stay here. Not to mention, I needed the insurance and I had a mortgage, I had to pay the bills, but I was in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I was fighting to stay there myself. I was fighting within myself. And then, of course, I got sick because
Yeah.
finally I couldn't, I was not listening to my inner guidance.
Yeah.
Then I was really sick, to the
Mm.
point where, I was towing an oxygen tank behind me. And then I woke
Wow.
up, it was like, well, finally I had PCP pneumonia. Finally, it was time to listen to myself in a new way. So there's this turning point or transformation moment for me when I finally was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't hang out with these people. I have a different goal. I have a different magic or medicine in me. I have a different service or purpose to provide the world.
Hmm.
I have a
Yeah.
gift to give that only I can give to the world. And it's not in show business anymore. And that's when I really started chasing the healing path, the shaman path, plant medicines and spirituality, meditation, coaching. And I really started putting myself first. And so I know
Yeah.
that you have a turning point, or or another way I like to say it is, it's all of a sudden I got to the point where bullshit, I'm not doing it anymore. Life
Yeah.
is short. I insist on a meaningful engagement. I'm going to chase my heart and love, and I don't know how I'm going to get there, but it starts now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd been kind of living unauthentically for as long as I can remember, up until probably within the last year. It was I had my first plant medicine experience, and that helped out a lot and just started opening things up. I've never really considered myself a very spiritual person. I mean, I grew up with religion, and because I was raised Catholic, and I was expected to go to church and all that stuff. I went to Catholic school for 4 years, did not fit in at all, was constantly in trouble. Whenever something were to happen, the principal would always come looking for me because she knew that there was 9 times out of 10 I probably was involved. So, and she was right. I mean, I was a hellraiser because I just didn't fit in. So I just did whatever I could to stand out and just not fit in with that group. But going trying to fit in, like you had said, you did things to try to fit in. And what I did to try to fit in is I tried to do the masculine things. I tried to, and not that I'm not a masculine person, it's just that I had more feelings and I was a little bit more sensitive when it came to, just in, being in touch with my feelings, I guess. So I, played football and I wrestled and I did all those things through, middle school and high school. And then after high school, I just couldn't stand living at home anymore. So the only way that I saw out was to get married. And I remember I got married when I was 21 years old to a woman who was 9 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, in hindsight, it was probably one of the worst ideas. But I mean, I learned a lot and I grew a lot from that experience. And she's actually one of my good friends to this day. She's off and remarried, and her and I stay in touch. But I definitely learned a lot from that. But I was still just trying to get away from. I was running. I was just constantly running. That's what it came down to. I was constantly running, and it wasn't until recently that I realized that I've been running the majority of my life. Like I said earlier, I'm an aircraft mechanic, and I've been doing that since 2011, 2010. So, 14 years now. And for the last 4 years, 4 to 5 years of my career, I chose jobs that would take me either out of the country or out of the state. And I would work away from home. When I was out of the country, I was in Haiti working for 28 days at a time. And then I would come home for 21 days. And then when I was in country in a different state, I would go out for 20 days and I'd come home for 10.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I started, this journey on the plant medicine, and also dealing in just doing a lot of self work, whether it's through different types of self help training and things like that. I finally started realizing that I was in fact running. That's my MO. When shit got hard, I'd bolt. I'd gone, and I'd use the excuse of, well, I'm just going to work. Why are you, and I'd since remarried and, had a family and such since then.
Right.
And so I was constantly gone.
Right. So, Paul, I want to call in something here because this is something that I see in my own life as well as in humanity, is that when we're running, so often we run away fiercely, but we're not really running toward. We know what we're running away from, but we don't really know what we're running toward. Or maybe another way to say that is that I know exactly what I'm saying no to. Fuck that. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Don't really spend the time or the dream work to know what we're saying yes to or running toward. And I think that's such a huge part of our healing journey, our awakening, our expansion, our when we reclaim our power as spirit creators in this world, when we stop reacting to the world and we start creating in the world. And I really believe that is the healing moment. That's the magic moment, because we can either react or create, but you cannot do both at the same time. And so there's an awakening when all of a sudden I can't only focus on what's bad or what I'm saying no to without a powerful acknowledgement to what I'm going to say yes to.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a transformation moment, when all of a sudden we wake up, or we exchange our old mode of operandum into a new one, or
Mhm.
like I said earlier, it's like all of a sudden, like, you and I are, what, give or take, maybe 2/3 ish the way through life. And now it's like, okay, life is short, meaningful engagement,
Mhm.
no time for the bullshit, only interested in stuff I care about. I want to
Yeah.
choose life because I know that life chooses me. And I
Mhm.
want to be that example for me, my family, and those around me.
Yeah.
So there is that transformation moment of changing. And it's very
Mhm.
different when all of a sudden you're running towards it. Like I'm saying a
Yeah.
hell yes, a radical yes to something. But that's
Yeah.
a hard thing to do without having done your dream work. With
Yeah.
even We're not even allowed to dream or daydream in our world. In fact, we're literally told not to. And a big part
Yeah.
of my programs that I've taught for the last couple of years is, okay, let's reignite the daydream. Let's dream in such a way that it ignites our heart, our emotions, our creative fires in our bellies in such a way that you cannot not pay attention to it. It pulls the
Yeah.
end of suffering and sets it into creation. And then, whoa, let's go to Costa Rica. Let's make a dream come true. Let's go scuba diving.
Yeah.
Let's go on adventures and say yes to those things. So, because I know that, in our friendship and our time together this year and our trip to Costa Rica, you and me dancing on the beach,
Yeah.
and ridiculous amounts of joy are now part of our regular reality in a way that I never even thought possible, let alone as a regular daily feature.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Um, just the joyous part. I mean, the joy that's kind of one of my wife's sayings is, and I repeat it whenever I get a chance, is that joy is our birthright. And I keep replaying it in my head, and I'm just like trying to really grasp what that means. And yeah, it's so awesome when you can just be authentically yourself and just operate in joy rather than operate in fear or uncertainty or the doubt, and just like you said, just dance on the beach and don't give a fuck what anybody thinks, and just do
Such good
you,
medicine. Such good
yeah.
medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one thing that I really did get to experience in being in Costa Rica. And I mean, I had some of the most joyous times of my entire life, and I don't remember being that joyous even as a kid. I mean, I played, but I was always saddled with this um I don't know what to call it really. This I was told by like relatives, oh, well, since I was the only male figure in the house, that I was the man of the house. I needed to, help take care of things. And looking back, I'm like, that's one of the worst things that they could have said, because that basically took away my childhood and took away my innocence. And because I wasn't supposed to be anybody's, you know, dad or anything. I was just supposed to be a kid and just supposed to experience life as a kid. So I think a lot of that got taken away. And just now, after doing some of this healing work and being able to just be joyous and laugh and have fun and just roll around on the ground with my feet and hands in the air like a bug. I mean, it's just one of the coolest things. Dancing in the rain, like I'd never experienced
Oh,
that as
so
far as I
good.
can remember, but I did that one night in Costa Rica, just danced on the veranda and just danced my ass off in the rain, and just, whatever music was playing, there was some karaoke down the hill that was coming up. We could hear it. And I was just like, okay, good enough. And
Huh.
just dancing and being joyous and just enjoying life and just enjoying the journey to being my authentic self.
Right. Well, I'm so honored to have witnessed you in that moment.
Yeah.
And we both did a
Yep.
little tap dancing shuffle off to Buffalo at that
Yep.
moment.
Yep.
Because we
Yeah, I
both have a
remember.
little
That was
tap
awesome.
dance in our history together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's something, to be said about that moment when
Mhm.
joy shows up, and one of the workshops that I teach is called the Choose Joy workshop, which, and I love the difference between joy and happiness, where happiness is outside in. It's like, okay, out
Mhm.
in the world, these things make me happy, but joy is the other way
Mhm.
around. Joy comes from
Mhm.
within, and
Yeah.
joy is a choice we make. We choose to see joy, because then we
Mhm.
can experience joy and all of our struggles and suffering and frustrations and curiosities and attractions all at the same time. It
Mhm.
influences how we see the world and how we experience the world. Joy comes from within, and it's an important medicine. And I think joy, like on the vibration scale, the emotion scale, it's like there's happiness and then joy,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
gratitude and appreciation is at the top. And I think there's the reason appreciation is at the top is because it's 100% acceptance of all things. We stop fighting the universe and the universe stops fighting us.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. And that's what I think what I mean when we choose life, life chooses us.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us are choosing to suffer or choosing to be less than or choosing to hurt because we were taught how. And we were taught how
Mhm.
by masters, our parents, our grandparents, our culture, our religions, our politics, all of those things. And that's important to say that into the world, because that way we know it wasn't our fault, is that we
Yeah.
did our part and we did our
Yeah.
best. But now we're in a place where we get to change our mind and we get to say yes and we get to feel good and we get to do it for ourselves in front of our lovers and our families and our communities, and hopefully in such a way that they'll know they can too.
Yeah.
And that
For
touches
sure.
my heart, and that's why
Yeah.
I do. I want to
Yeah.
be in service. I want to be the example. I want to tell a good
Mhm.
story. I want to give possibility to a place where other people might not find any at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big
Yeah.
piece of what we're doing here. And I know a little bit of your story, Paul. I know that when you were at my house, a month or two ago, you were talking about some of the things that are possible for you now that you would have never even considered, let alone
Yeah.
entertained,
Yeah.
just because of
Yeah. For
this
sure.
perspective, or maybe it's a repurposing of your resources, which is not just your money, it's your attention and your emotions, your
Yeah.
creativity. So, what are some of the
Yeah.
things now that you're entertaining, creating, or seeing as possible that were not even on the menu a year or two ago?
Mhm. The biggest one is that I actually entertaining the idea of possibly writing a book.
Cool.
Basically having to deal with my story, but just from the sensitive feeling kind of point of view, and just growing up in I grew up in a beautiful part of this country in Colorado, Boulder, and it was just magical growing up there. And but I always felt different just because I was so feeling and so sensitive. Um, and just so just trying to temper that with my surroundings, and just kind of keeping things pushed down and just kind of going with the flow and just being who everybody else wanted me to be, to fit in.
Mhm.
So yeah, so writing the book, something that I guess, like you said, I never would have even considered a year ago. So I've been kind of entertaining that. I've got a few things written down. I keep it in my phone, and whenever something comes to mind, I write it down, and I just kind of keep it in there. The other thing is, I I remember growing up, I never was a really good speaker. Like, I was afraid to speak in front of people, but I remember I be- applied to, it was, I think it was like the Rotary Club or something, had like a speech contest or something. And I remember writing the speech, and to be honest, I can't even remember what the heck it was about. I wish I did. I'd probably have to ask my mom; she'd be able to tell you. But um, wrote the speech and just didn't think anything of it, and then found out that I had won at the regional level and was going on to the next level. And I just remember just being completely blown away, and like that's when the self doubt started creeping in. Like, oh, how can that be? You're not good enough. You don't come from a good home, and all the the money and all the stuff that where people like that come from. So that creeped in, and I did really well. I didn't advance past the next round, but just the fact that I was even made it out of the regionals was pretty cool experience. So I'd never really thought of myself as a speaker, but now fast forward to within the last year, and I'm starting to figure out what my purpose is, because that's kind of the journey I'm on, is the spiritual journey, is to figure out, who am I? What's my purpose? Because I do what I do for a living right now to make money and pay the bills as a mechanic, working on medical helicopters, which is really rewarding in and of itself. But it's not what I'm meant to do. It's not how I'm going to help the most amount of people out there in the world. And I think that's what I'm called to do, is to help out and to spread my message. And again, not feeling good enough, or not feeling worthy enough to even be in that realm. You've got these amazing public speakers out there. You've got the Tony Robbins of the world, and you've got the Deepak Chopras, and all these people that are just world renowned, and people know them by name. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I was like, well, who the hell am I? I don't have a college degree per se. I mean, I have the degree in aviation to be a mechanic, but I don't have like a typical 4-year college degree. I don't have a post-secondary college degree or anything like that. I'm not a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist of any sort, by any stretch of the imagination. But what I do have is I have my own personal life experiences, and what it's like to have grown up always feeling like I had to dim my light so that way I could fit in. And by doing that, I just suppressed my feelings. And sorry, I get emotional when I tell this story, because in this work that I've been doing, I met this guy. His name's Joey, and he grew up playing hockey and all of his life, and just kept progressing up through the levels. Started playing in college and got recruited out of college into the there's like 3 tiers of professional hockey, and he was in the first tier of the Professional Hockey League, and he was just crushing it. And his one fatal flaw was that he could not feel or express emotion.
Ooh.
And it basically ate him, literally almost killed him. He developed cancer in his abdomen, and it literally started spreading throughout his body. And that's what stopped him from continuing on in his hockey career. And I got to meet him on this side of the cancer diagnosis and the treatments and all the stuff and all the holistic stuff he did, healing. And a lot of the healing came from here, not from popping pills, and changing his diet. And his fiance, now his wife, was just she wouldn't let him quit. She wouldn't let him give up. And she, I think, is one of the biggest reasons why he's alive today. And so fast forward through that, we met through this training, and became really good friends. And I just found out 2 days ago that because part of the training was we needed to figure out what our purpose is, or what our vision is and what we want to do. And his vision was to basically start ground level and start trying to figure out a way to incorporate more healthy eating and growing your own food, that kind of stuff, rather than using drugs and all the Western medicine way of dealing with ailments in the body. And he wanted to start by, organic produce and more availability of organic produce to more people, and getting, together with farmers and grocery stores, and just kind of working that way up. And really, really awesome, goal, very cool vision. And then like 3 or 4 weeks into his vision, he just changed his vision all of a sudden. Because I remember having a conversation with him, and I asked him, well, do you have any desire to go back to playing hockey? And he's like, I've been out for so long. It's a young man's game. And, he's in his mid to late 20s. And he's, he just felt like that ship had sailed, and he, missed the opportunity. So somewhere after me having that conversation with him, he changed his vision to going back to playing hockey. That was his new vision. And 2 days ago, he signed a contract with the team.
What?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, I was just blown away. And
Ah.
like you can see, it brings such emotion to me because he is, I think, the first person in our group that we went through this training with that is actually doing the thing that he said he was going to do, which is to get back into hockey and start playing professionally again.
Mhm.
So, I mean, granted, he's still, the first level, but he told me the other day, he's like, I'm in the best shape of my life. I feel like the best that I've ever felt. Um, and he's got energy like no other. Like he'll work out, go and skate in the morning, do a heavy workout after that, go back and skate in the afternoon, work out again, and he'll still have a ton of energy left over at the end of the day. And he's like, I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm just gonna embrace it and accept it. So I'm just really, really excited for him, and it's so cool to see
Oh,
somebody who is actually living their vision, and that inspires me.
so
So
good. Mhm.
yeah. So then that prompted me to think about my vision, which is to um, help those. And originally, I thought it was just a vision. The vision was to help people, but I've come to realize that it's to help men, not just people, but men specifically, because men face unique challenges in that we live in a society where we are expected to be macho. We're expected to, not have emotions and not have feelings. And
To
my
provide
wife's
and
father,
up and
yeah,
bestow. Totally.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and all of those things. And you know I say you can do both. Why can't you be strong and provide and still have emotions and still have feelings? And I guess
Absolutely.
the whole point of the story, coming back around, is that Joey kept suppressing those emotions for all those years, and that's what I believe and he believes led to that cancer. And now that he is able to express himself and he's able to be okay with, with all of that, I think is why he's able to finally live his authentic life, life's purpose. So that's kind of where I'm heading. Is I want to speak to men and just let them know, hey, this is my story. And it doesn't matter if you have emotion or not, or if you have feelings.
Mhm.
um, and just kind of letting them know that that's okay. It doesn't make you any less of a man. It doesn't make you any less of a husband or a lover or friend, partner, whatever. It just makes you who you are, and it's okay to be who we are in this
Right.
life.
Absolutely, Paul. There's something that the more I do this work, the more I know this to be true is that there is such medicine in being witnessed in our stories when we witness each other and take a turn being witnessed. Now, a part of that is
Mhm.
sure, it's accountability, but I think a bigger part of that is it's our shared humanity.
Mhm.
When somebody else is be brave and vulnerable enough to say, hey, this is my experience in the world and this is how it made me feel,
Mhm.
we as the audience find ourselves in their stories and we connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
For
that's when
sure.
we are more powerful together than we'll ever be standing alone. And
Mhm.
that's the difference between empathy and sympathy. I mean,
Mhm.
sympathy is like, yeah, but at least,
Mhm.
at least you're still alive. At least you're okay. At least you still have.
Mhm.
Empathy is, I don't even know what to say. I'm just so glad you told me.
Yeah.
Here at the end.
Mhm.
Come together. Empathy brings us
Yeah.
together. Sympathy actually pushes us
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah.
So when in our divine humanity, when I can witness you in your story and I can find myself in your story, then we tap into a common resource of what's possible.
Yeah.
We dare to dream a little bit bigger. We dare to say yes. We dare to choose joy. We dare to do all of those things in a difficult, dark, shadow-filled world.
Mhm.
We ignite each other in this way, and
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I'm showing up for it.
Yeah.
And I love that. Joey, is it
Joey. Yeah.
Joey? I think it's so important to know who our heroes and our mentors are, and not only know who they are, but why.
Mhm.
You just said, okay, Joey's my hero, and here's why.
Mhm.
And I love that you saw yourself in his story and are ignited. If he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
That's me too. That's me
Yeah,
too.
for sure. Yeah.
Well, Paul, I love claiming our purpose, finding our purpose, and some of the language I use for that is to discover our gift, the gift that only we are here to give. There's a gift in my own work, my own prayers and healing is to understand that I'm here to make a difference in the world in a way that only I can.
Yeah.
And when I tap into that energy, it is abundant and it is unlimited and it feels good.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's more of it. There's more.
Yeah.
There's always
Mm-hmm.
more, which means that
Yeah.
my well is full and the 500 buckets outside my well are also full. And those are the ones I can give away.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Well, Paul,
Instead
it's
of
been,
doing it the other way around, which
right.
is what I think we've always done is, fill up everybody else's bucket. And then when we go back to the well, there's nothing left for us. We're like, well, fuck.
Put
Yeah.
everybody
And
else first.
that's,
And we're taught to
yeah.
do that by our culture. And so
Yeah.
were our parents and our
Yeah.
grandparents. But,
Yeah.
In the information age with a phone in our pocket, with the world library in our pocket, we get to ask a question to the universe in such a way now that our parents and ancestors could only dream of.
Yeah.
Or even not even dream of.
Yeah.
And so I think we're
Sure.
living in a magical time right now because we can see a video or hear a story and then go find ourselves in it.
Yeah.
Which is healing. That's good medicine. We are
Sure.
the medicine.
Yes.
Our imagination and our creativity and our intuition are the most powerful tools we have.
Yeah.
And it's time to use them. Well, Paul, I
Yeah,
want
for
to
sure.
say thanks for
Yeah.
talking about your heart today with me and
Yeah.
being vulnerable enough to talk about things that hurt, fear, uncertainty,
Yeah.
and doubt. Man, they're crippling
Mhm.
agents in our world, but they also are such amazing tools. And so I
Yeah.
want to wrap it up, like turning fear, uncertainty around into the other side of things. Because fear, I think it's so beautiful to know that fear, if a saber-toothed tiger is not eating your belly right now,
Mm-hmm.
not in immediate danger, that fear really is just proof of needing to know more knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I need to know more. And the
Yeah.
kinesthetic experience of fear is that all five and our sixth sense downloads a lot of information quickly, which is why it's
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming. But if we can say,
Yeah.
okay, wait a minute, I don't need to go climb a tree to save my life. I can stand here and go, oh God, wow, I just learned a lot fast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then process one at a time. Well, then we
Mm-hmm.
can say yes to that. There's people who jump out of airplanes to get that same feeling. Like,
Yeah.
wow, there's a wow factor. And the
Mm-hmm.
uncertainty is, I think, is a nice thing to realize that you didn't read the menu. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much more to choose from. You're uncertain because you're only looking at the same three things you've always chosen from, and they're not working anymore. The
Yeah.
desserts are in the back.
Yeah.
Read the menu and then
Mm-hmm.
doubt one more time it's a great question to ask is it's not that I'm not capable, it's that how can I be?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm gonna doubt my next step to make sure I don't step on the cactus or a snake, but
Yeah.
I'm going to take that next step
Yeah.
to realize that fear,
For sure.
uncertainty, and doubt, they stop us on purpose for a moment so that
Mm-hmm.
we can wake up and see more picture, more details, and make a better choice. So we take the crippling element out of fear, uncertainty, and doubt and realize that they're important tools to our human experience and then put them down. Stop turning a screw with a hammer
Yeah.
and pick up joy, pick up gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
pick up some relief and fun, and go.
Yeah. For sure.
Any last thoughts, Paul, before we wrap it up today?
No, it's been really, really awesome. Thanks for allowing me to come on and chat with you. It's been really awesome.
Well, Paul, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Always a pleasure. And I look forward to being with you and your lovely wife in the near future when I'm back in Salt Lake. Maybe sometimes you'll
Sounds
come
great.
here as well.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
we'll stay on
Definitely would
for a
love
bit.
to.
as I wrap up the video. Everybody out there in the world, thanks for being here with us. Paul DeHerrera, my good friend. I'm Cory Thorell. And if you found this interesting or insightful, please reach out and let me know. I would love to know more about you, your stories, and let's spend some time together. Thanks, everybody.